All right, morning everyone. Start it up. Okay. All right, last night's session in the States was a rather strong one. We got up to I guess to the levels that we traded at for most of the day early, and we traded sideways literally the entire day until maybe the last 45 minutes. And we drifted up an extra few points. It was actually quite an uneventful day. Is the first day of I'd say lower volatility in the U.S. For quite some time. It was interesting yesterday how the European markets for the first day really were struggling the entire session relative to how the U.S. traded. The S&P kept pushing higher. We kept getting nothing out of the S&P, kept getting nothing out of Europe. And kind of only once we closed did we get a little bit of a pop out of Europe at the end. Still only up to relatively around flat line. But we did see a move higher in some of the mining stocks following oil maybe a little bit higher on the session. So I think it was a bit of a bit of a lackluster trading day from Europe and also from our market in particular. We had jobless claims yesterday that came in a little bit below expectations, which obviously is a good thing. We saw the trade deficit that widened a little bit. I think that's probably because of the shale production that's been cut back quite aggressively in the last little bit. And then we saw Pfizer, which is also making a bid to acquire Hospira in about a $16 billion deal. So we did have quite a bit going on, but I think the markets are a little bit muted maybe because of the non-farm payroll number that's going to come today. Obviously, that's it's the biggest number of the month for us. And I think with the U.S. data turning slightly softer over the past month, maybe there's probably a little bit more emphasis on this non-farm payroll number than some of the more recent ones. Right, in Asia overnight, not a whole lot of action. No market moved more than 1%. We had Nikkei up about 0.75%, Shanghai down about 0.25%. Everything else was more or less around flatline. We've had Australia, which set another new all-time closing high at the moment. It's incredible to me that in this environment they're able to do that, but obviously that's what loose monetary policy gets you these days. I think that's really, really impressive to me. The yen, like we talked about yesterday, continues to struggle to weaken even in this bull market environment, really making me think that we're getting ready to get a pop to the upside in the Japanese yen. Other than that, there's not a whole lot going on in the Asian session. If you look at our chart of interest today, this will be if we add over 200,000 jobs, and there's 230,000 expected. If we add 200,000 plus jobs on the non-farm payroll today, it'll be the longest expansion. It will have the longest period of expansion since 93 to 95 in terms of over 200,000. So this is really a big bull market patch in the jobs market, something that we haven't seen in 2 decades. I think we're obviously probably going to get it. But what's interesting here is to look at the ISM non-manufacturing employment numbers as well, which have moved, relative to what's happened in the jobs market. There's just been absolutely no correlation to that. Right, let's look at nothing to look at today in corporate action. In terms of market data today, we've got industrial production from Germany coming out at 9. We've got the UK trade balance at 11:30. We've got non-farm payrolls, obviously the big daddy there later in the States. It's going to be 3:30 today, our time, and unemployment rate as well. All right, let's get into the maps. First thing we will have a look at is the U.S. dollar ZAR chart. So we're going to have a look at some ZARs here. I'm all the way back to a 5-year just to kind of look at the ridiculous downtrend that we've been looking at in the rand. I mean, that is, I've never seen, I can't remember seeing anything that's more consistent than that. I mean, every time we hit trend support here on the dollar, it bounces. That level is, as we speak, about 11:17, something around that line. It might be as high as 11:20. If we move out to the right just a little bit more, we scale this forward on the chart. We're going to look at our real main level of support, which we ripped through yesterday at 11:40. You can see there. So right at 11:40, we ripped through that. You can see how important that level was. I mean, we touched on it 3 times before we made this breakout. We've been putting in a real consolidation. This, for me, it's the chart still doesn't necessarily look bullish. Obviously, we've got the only way you can really, I think, start to get bullish on the rand is if we get through this trend line here. And I wouldn't be surprised if that happens, by the way, because, South Africa is the only country left with a freaking yield anymore. So to sit short of rand or, to have any position, not long rand is a position that's very expensive because you're paying carry out the wazoo the whole time. Everybody else is down next to nothing. We've still got 10-year yields up at 7.25%. So this is something to watch to see if we can continue to hold trendline support here on the dollar. If not, if we do break through that, then I think we will have a big move in the rand. I think a handful of people were obviously caught on the wrong side of this already at this 11:38, 11:40 level yesterday. We got a big move through it. We moved as high as 11:26, I think, yesterday. Softened a touch this morning. I think it'll be interesting to see how that continues to play out over the next few sessions. But watch this very, very closely. If we get through some trend support here, then we could have a huge move in the rand. All right. Next one we'll look at is Amplats. Let me change the timeline here. We're going to look at Anglo Platinum, if this will update. Camera, there we go. All right. You can see here at 390, a massive, massive level. And this is really, it's the left shoulder is a little bit more broad, but definitely an inverse head and shoulder set up here. You can see same sort of level in terms of the shoulders. And if we get through 390, I think we have a big move to the upside in Amplats. If you do look at this in a little bit longer period of time, all the way out here to a 5-year, then it kind of looks like a head and shoulder and not an inverse head and shoulder. But I don't think that comes into play yet. I think you got to get a little bit higher anyway to make this kind of a head and shoulder. But bottom line is nice inverse head and shoulder set up here. We get above 390 in the neckline here. This is very symmetrical. It's the kind of pattern that you love to get an opportunity to play. We'll also have a quick look at Impalas while we're on the platinum space. Impala, you can see here also, finally getting back above this level. We got we had these 2 closes above that level. Then we failed all the way back down to 74. This the level we're talking about is at about $79. We've gotten back above it. Now this is 3 closes above it, and we've made a new closing high, prior to 2 days ago and, maybe a week and a half ago. And that's really a new closing high for as much as 3 months, and I think that's somewhat significant. So I'd like to say that we've kind of broken out here in Impalas finally. And yeah, I think we've still got upside here. I think we've got upside to 87, 86, 87, something along those lines, maybe at least up to this sort of level. And that's probably where our target is for the breakout. So watch this. I think we've still got a little bit more room. Got to play catch up to some of the other stocks in the more broad mining sector, I believe. Right. If we look at BGA yesterday, we had BGA, which came down and tested what I think is a pretty significant level at about 183. Couldn't really get a whole lot of stock unless you're paying 83.50 or higher. But we definitely got a bit of a test down there. I think it was a significant level to come down and test. We were north of 200 just the other day. So this is a quick 10% correction. I think it's probably a good spot to nibble if you get a chance down there again today, just because quick retracement to big breakout from resistance, quick retracement back down to support. Probably get a nice bounce off of these levels in the next session or two. All right, next one is Woolworths, or the last one is Woolworths. Woolworths has a nice little inverse head and shoulder here in itself. You can see here, little left shoulder, right shoulder, head here that we broke out from. We talked about that when we did break out. What we were looking at, I was actually drawing this from the wicks yesterday. I mean, if you're drawing it and drawing it from the wicks, we came down and we really tested that level for the last 2 days. And yesterday we actually had a bit of a reversal there in the end. So I think we've kind of come down and filled the gap here. We may get a move down closer to 81, but either way, this thing's actually, believe it or not, been lagging some of the stocks as of recently in the sector, and I think maybe it's got some more upside here off of this support level. I like the breakout play here on the inverse head and shoulder. It's a classic retest to me. I fully expect this thing to go up and trade to 100 Rand in the next couple months. So just watch it closely. And that's it for today, guys. Good luck out there.